After COVID, just after COVID, early in the year, end of last year, the tourist numbers started to pick up quite nicely. And then in February, the war in Ukraine broke out. And guess where the most of our tourists come from? The two top countries is Ukraine and Russia. And also, one of the other main export of the island is tea. And again, who buys the most tea from Sri Lanka? Ukraine and Russia.
Arno Matthee, brewmaster at Lion Brewery in Sri Lanka, is our guest today. Sri Lanka is in the midst of a serious economic crisis, and the country is basically bankrupt to a point where there is no forex available to purchase any raw materials. Fortunately, Lion Brewery does have some dollar income through exports, but they desperately need to expand their export portfolio. So Arno asked the questions if I have any connections in Africa that he could approach to assist in the distribution of their beers. At the moment, they're focusing on Zambia, Uganda, DRC, Rwanda, Kenya, and maybe even Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. My name is Holger Meier, and this is Beer World. Arno Matthee, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Arno, you are in Sri Lanka. Tell us exactly where you are.
I am sitting in a part of Colombo called Rajagaria. It's about 22:07 in the evening at the moment, yeah, and we moved here about 7 months ago, me and my wife.
Okay.
I'm the call it chief brewer, brewmaster, liquid specialist. My official title is brewmaster / liquid specialist. The idea was initially when I got here that they are building a new pilot plant, 20 hectoliter small brewery, to do trials and new product development, etc., etc. And because I've got quite a new product development background, that's why I got into this position. But with the current situation, that whole project has been put on hold for now. So I'm kind of waiting and seeing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
With what's happening in Sri Lanka at the moment.
What is happening?
And well, basically, what's happening is that the country is bankrupt because of poor leadership from the government, the local government, where they've got it's basically a family-run business. The government here.
Okay.
Call it the Guptas of Sri Lanka. They call the Rajapaksas. Now the president's name is Gota Rajapaksa. He used to be the prime minister, and I became the president. And the previous president, his older brother, was the prime minister until about 2 or 3 weeks ago when the locals booted him out. The finance minister used to be the other brother, and then there's a couple of sons and nephews and cousins also in the mix. And I don't have proof, but it's all over the news, and everybody's talking about it, how they looted the country. They just stole billions and billions of dollars out of the country, and to such an extent that the country cannot pay back debts. We defaulted, I think it was last week, on our debt payments for the first time in 74 years since independence. So there's quite a large group of people that's protesting against it at the moment. There's been protests happening all over the country the last 50, 60 days now. And then this year, this month, May, the 9th of May, the whole thing came to a point. And the rumor has it that people in the government got a couple of, they got tired of all these protesters in the street and swinging banners and shouting slogans. The slogan they're shouting the whole time is "Gota, go home." Now, Gota is the president, and they want him to go home. He is a U.S. citizen as well, by the way. He's got dual citizenship, and they got the rumor is they've got a bunch of convicts out of jail, about I don't know, maybe 300 of them, and paid them money and booze to go and basically break down the structures that these people have built next to the road, where they were, call it toy-toying. Very, very peaceful demonstrations, though. And they went and they started to physically attack these people. But then the protesters turned around, and these guys were actually, they were pushed back, and they got the worst of it. There's a couple of people that died out of the whole protest that's happened. But the strange thing is, or call it strange or nice or weird thing is, unlike what we know in Africa, is the protesters never burned any businesses or any other cars, social or civil cars. They specifically targeted government buildings and cars and buses. They brought busloads in full of these so-called convicts to come and disrupt these people. And all those buses were actually tossed into a lake. They call it the Beira Lake. That's here in Colombo. Burned the buses, burned the cars. There's some beautiful cars that got burned, Land Rovers and Defenders and so on, that just got trashed. I got a couple of photographs of it. I'm sure there must be about at least 30 cars and buses that got torched. This went on for about 3 days. All these fighting that happened. At the moment, what's happening is it's quite quiet at the moment. The protesters are still there, but we've got a new prime minister now. Out of all of this, the ex-prime minister resigned, and we've got a new prime minister. And one of the first things that he said is that the military and the police are not allowed to touch or lay a finger on these protesters because they are peaceful. They don't do anything. They just stand there with their placards, and they're not physical at all. So there's no point in attacking them or removing them. But the long and the short of it is there's no forex in the country, so we can't buy fuel, and 40% of our electricity comes from burning diesel in this country. 60% is from hydroelectricity, but that's mainly in the rainy season that's only starting now for the next 6 months. So out of rainy season, almost 80 or 90% of the electricity must come from diesel and solid fuel or coal that we have to import. And all of this costs money. Now, we've got rolling blackouts. At one stage, the blackouts were like 16 hours. There's no power. We had no power for 16 hours. And at the brewery, we have generators then to supply the electricity that's run by diesel as well. So for us to get diesel is also quite a mission. Fortunately, our guys have got contacts all over and they pull strings, and we haven't stopped because of no diesel yet. It kind of seemed to be stabilized. They're stabilizing at the moment. They also started at our oil refinery. We have an oil refinery as well, but we buy in crude oil and then we make fuel out of it. So that is starting up now. So this week, the first petrol and diesel will come from the oil refinery, and hopefully things will stabilize then from a fuel point of view. But there's also, there's lots of talks about food shortages coming in the next 3 months because of this whole forex issue. Yeah, if you just Google Sri Lanka economic crisis, I mean, you're going to find loads and loads and loads of news articles about it, and different opinions and views about the whole thing.
So did you not Google before you moved there?
I did, but then it wasn't a crisis. 6 months ago, this country was stable. The Sri Lankan rupee was quite stable against the US dollar, and I checked it. It was stable for many years, around about say 200 rupees per US dollar, and suddenly about 2 months ago, it shot up to 300, and at the moment it's sitting at 360. So it almost halved in value in terms or against the dollar. Sure. Our official inflation rate at the moment, I think, is sitting at about 33%, if I remember correctly, for the last year, mainly because of the weakening of the rupee. Yeah.
That is a situation. And I mean, you sent me a message on LinkedIn this weekend saying that you were desperately looking for export orders so that you could get some foreign exchange, I guess.
Yes, yeah, that's how this whole thing linked up with the brewery. We need to export our beer. At the moment, we export about 10% of our beer into Africa, into China, Japan, Australia, and Europe. In total, it's about 10%. But Africa, we see as quite a major potential customer for us. At the moment, we export a couple of containers a month to places like mainly Uganda and Rwanda, but we want to expand that to Zambia, the DRC, Kenya, Ethiopia, the whole middle belt of Africa, central bit, south central basically, and then also coming down south, Zambia, Botswana, maybe not Namibia at this stage, but definitely South Africa is on the radar as well. We'd like to get into SA as well. Okay.
And I mean, you sent me a list of countries that you've worked in, and you've worked in most of these countries. But I guess you weren't the salesperson, you were the brewer.
Yeah, no, I was in my time in SAB based in Johannesburg. I've worked in basically all the English-speaking African countries where we had breweries, not the French-speaking countries. There was another company that we partnered with, Castel. They were running the business on that side for us, or together with us. So yes, the countries I worked most in was basically Ghana, Nigeria, two countries I worked a lot in. And then also Uganda, Mozambique, Tanzania, Eritrea I went to as well, Ethiopia, all the southern African countries, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Lesotho, Swaziland, Botswana, etc. Tanzania. Did I miss anyone?
South Sudan.
I think that's... South Sudan. I've been to South Sudan as well, and also Uganda. But Uganda, it wasn't for beer; it was for spirits. We went there on a mission for spirits. I left SAB twice, and I got hired 3 times as well. So I left SAB from Butterworth. I actually got retrenched. There was no job for me. I got retrenched out of SAB from Butterworth when it closed down. And I think 6 weeks later, I got a phone call, and I went back into SAB. And then many years later, I bought 2 bottle stores down in Caledon, two liquor stores. And I left the brewery. But I must say, when I bought the 2 bottle stores, there were 3 bottle stores in Caledon, down in the Western Cape. And within 6 months, there were 7 bottle stores. And I think the previous owner knew this, and he didn't tell me. So the 2 bottle stores were almost, they were doomed from word go. And also that business in a liquor store, the retail business bored me to death. It's the same thing over, and you deal with drunk people coming in wanting to steal your beer or your product off the shelf. It was a nightmare. So when I got the phone call from SAB to come and join again, then I jumped to it, and yes, then I left the bottle stores, and I actually didn't even sell it. We just closed it down.
Yeah,
there was nobody was going to buy it.
I'm flattered that you asked me for help, but surely you have a very strong SAB Old Boys Club, or that you can call on.
Yeah, I do. We have a bit of an old boys club that we do call each other and so on. But unfortunately, me being in the technical side, I don't have a lot of operational guys that I know. And the ones that I do know have left SAB. They're not there anymore. They're not in Africa. They're all over the world, different companies, retired and so forth. So it's quite difficult to get hold of these guys. Yeah. And then the 1 or 2 guys that I did get hold of basically told me that SAB did their own distribution, so they're not going to put beer of a different brewer on their trucks and so on. And I'm not sure if AB InBev has got the same philosophy now, because all our guys, all our expats were pulled out of Africa when the AB InBev guys took over. There's no more expats in Africa.
Yeah. Okay. So explain maybe what beers you make and where you see the opportunities.
Yeah, we make basically we make lagers like most big commercial breweries. We've got a beer called Lion Lager, so we can't go and punt our beer into Southern Africa, so that we'll have to change the name, but that's a minor thing. So Lion is the biggest, well, basically the only brand that we've got from a beer point of view. So we've got Lion Lager, Lion Strong Beer, which is a lager at 8.8% alcohol. And then we've got a Lion Extra Strong at 12% ABV. But that we don't sell within Sri Lanka because it's not allowed. According to the Sri Lankan law, we're not allowed to sell anything above 9% when it comes to beer. So the Extra Strong is the beer that we send mainly to Africa.
Really?
So it goes to Africa. The 12% beer goes to Africa. I've been. Well, we also have a stout at 8%. Quite a very, very nice stout, I must say. The late Michael Jackson, the brewer Michael Jackson, once tasted this beer and he rated it as the top stout that he has ever drank. He wasn't even paid to say that. He was just on some other mission, and he happened to taste one of the beers, and he made that comment, saying that the stout is one of the best stouts he had in his life. So, and I must admit, when you drink it, it doesn't taste like 8%. But I mean, after the second one, it is 8%.
After the second one, you're actually on the fourth one.
Yeah. True.
I can't add on the third one. so the company is called Lion, hey?
Yeah, Lion Brewery Ceylon, which is also a strange thing to me. I mean, the country's previous name was Ceylon, but they all over after 75 years they still use Ceylon all over.
Couldn't be bothered.
They haven't changed anything. couldn't be bothered to change it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so we need to find people that are interested in importing Lion beer, but they can't call it Lion beer because it will clash with the mighty AB InBev.
Yeah, we call it something else. We call it Sina lager.
Okay.
And Sina basically means lion in the local language.
Okay.
That's what it's called. And we're already exporting the Sina lager or the Sina brand to Canada, actually.
Okay. So I suggest we change the brand to number 17 and export it to South Africa.
Yeah, I think we might get some problems with that.
It's like I try to, the slang word for Black Label is obviously Zamalek, and I contacted my trademark attorneys and I said, please, can they try and get that? No, that's owned by some company called AB InBev. So they're a little bit sharper than we think, or that we give them credit for. So what do you think the future is if you can't? This is obviously not a short-term solution, but
it's one of the other problem that we've got is the company's been growing over the last couple of years to such an extent that we are very close to our full capacity at the moment.
Oh, really?
So we've got a brewery that can do about 2 million hectoliters per year. So it's not a small brewery, and already we are selling 1.7 million in country, and then another 10%, almost 200,000 to export. So it's estimated that by next year, I think about June, we're going to run out of capacity. So we are busy expanding, but all of those expansions are kind of put on hold because of this shortage of forex, which is another problem that we've got. Hence, the next step now is to outcontract our export beer, go and make it somewhere else. But that eats into your margin because now you've got to pay margins at two different places, the contract brewer and your own, and it gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Okay. And who owns the brewery?
It's a company called Carson Cumberbatch. They are mainly into palm oil. They have something like about 150,000 hectares of palm fields on the island, and they do palm oil. They're also into real estate, leisure, hotels, and management services, and then of course beverages, which is only the brewery.
So palm oil, there must be a big demand for palm oil because there's no sunflower oil coming from the Ukraine. So
I'm not. Yeah, I can imagine it will be, but I'm not in touch with that side of the business.
So I think you should ask them for Forex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And tell us a little bit about the brewery. I mean, you said it's a Cronus brewery.
Yeah. Yes, it's Cronus. We've got two brew houses. The one at 240 hectoliter batch size. It's got zero cooker, mash tun, lauter tun, kettle and whirlpool. And then about, I think in 2016 it was, or 2015 thereabout, they put a second brew house in, 340 hectoliter brew house. It's got two mash tuns and a mash filter, which pumps out between 11 and 12 brews per day, which is fast. So every 2 hours a new brew comes out, which is quite fast. On the other brewery or brew house, we do about 9 brews a day. The Laterton brew house. We've got all our tanks are either 4 brew tanks or 6 brew tanks, depending from which brew house you cool. We don't have unitank. We've got a racking system where we transfer the beer to storage through a centrifuge, filter it, and then we've got 2 pack lines, a canning line that runs at about 35,000 cans an hour, and a bottle line that runs at about 55,000 bottles an hour, 625 ml bottles. The canning line is up to full capacity just about. That line runs 6 days a week, 24 hours a day. And then 1 day for maintenance. It's quite amazing to see that canning line run. The bottling line runs a little bit less, but it's also quite full.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about the consumer or the market in Sri Lanka? Or is that still...
Okay. Yeah, I can tell a little bit. What I know is that the market is, I would say, I'm not going to say it. The market drinks 8.8% beer, the main market. 80% of our product is strong beer that we sell, 8.8% alcohol. Personally, I cannot drink the beer. To me, it's just too strong. It's like, I don't know, I'm a mild beer drinker and I like my mild beers, but this beer is very strong, 8.8%. And it's not matured like Belgian beers that stays in barrels for long. You get a more mellow taste. This beer is quite sharp, but the locals love it. They can't get enough of it. And they buy the beer based on the price of the alcohol. They compare it to the local arak, which is made from, I think it's made from coconuts or sugar or something. And they compare the price of a can of beer, 500 ml can of beer versus a bottle of arak. And they actually sit and calculate, where per ml of alcohol, what is the cheapest option. And sometimes the government would push up the tax for beer, and then immediately, within months, the whole beer sales come down and the arak goes up, and then they would change it back again. It will change around again. So it's quite a strange market. Then on the other side, we also have used to have quite a huge tourist market, because this island's got the most magnificent coastal area, beautiful beaches and hotels and resorts. And before COVID, the pandemic, these resorts were packed, and a lot of people came here. And funny enough, now I think about it, just after COVID, early in the year, end of last year, the tourist numbers started to pick up quite nicely. And then in February, the war in Ukraine broke out. And guess where the most of our tourists come from? The 2 top countries is Ukraine and Russia. So it's almost as if somebody's got it in for us here. Yeah. And also, one of the other main export of the island is tea. And course. Again, who buys the most tea from Sri Lanka? Ukraine and Russia.
No, man.
But anyway, yeah.
Unbelievable.
So it's tough. The politicians they've got a big job lying ahead, solving the crisis. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of your position and your situation, what is it like working there, and how far do you live in a compound, or what does it look like?
No, well, basically they call it apartments here, but it's basically a block of flats.
Okay.
We've got in the building I'm staying, there's about 23 floors, and there's 8 units per floor. So you can calculate how many units there are. But inside the apartment building, there's a little shop that just the necessities: milk, sugar, bread, flour, a couple of medicines, toothpaste, soaps, and things like that. But the rest is pretty much standard. We go out to the local mall once a week, or maybe more than once a week, my wife actually, and go and buy groceries. But buying groceries is not like in South Africa where you go into Checkers and you buy everything. Yeah, the shops are a lot smaller. You go into a shop, and you got to see what does the vegetables look like today. Do they have potatoes? Do they have onions? Do they have tomatoes? That kind of thing.
Because
fortunately, we've got.
I was going to say that you should get Checkers to come there, but SPAR South Africa is there.
Yeah, I was going to say SPAR is here. There's a couple of SPARs here, which is nice. It's a lot better than the local stores. I think maybe what the SPARs did is they upped the level or the quality of the other stores as well, because they're really doing an excellent job in terms of the retail space in Sri Lanka at the moment. But unfortunately for us, the SPAR that is closest to us is literally about 6 kilometers away, which is a little bit too far. And so we go to the other stores, stores called Keels and Cargills and I can't remember the other one. Glowmark is the other one that we go to. Not that will mean anything to you.
But have you met up with the South Africans from SPAR?
Yes, we met them. Coincidentally, one of them, a guy called Joe Prinsloo, he stayed in exactly the same building as we did. He stayed on the 15th floor, and so that's how we met. We moved in here on I think it was a Friday, I can't remember, and we're still busy packing our clothes out, and suddenly there was a doorbell going. And I went to the front door, and there's Afrikaans voice. And I said, good grief, how's that? So yeah, but he left. He went to Switzerland. He got a job in Switzerland now about in March, so he went to Switzerland.
Okay. He
was replaced by a guy called John. I can't remember John's surname now. But John and Stephen are still here from SPAR, from South Africa.
Yeah, interesting. I hope I wonder how they're doing with all these problems that you are facing.
Yeah, they also have issues.
Yeah. Arno, you've had it looks like a wonderful career, and the more SAB people I interview, the more FOMO I get. I think we really missed out. You guys had a really, really wonderful time, it looks like, with SAB traveling through Africa and working in Africa and seeing new countries. And what is there anything you can share with us that might be interesting?
Yeah, the one thing before we go to that is that when I started working here in Lion, there's a couple of things. I'm used to the way that SAB run things and the analysis that we do and the information that was at our fingertips. And this Lion Brewery is co-owned by Carlsberg. Carlsberg's got about 25% share in it. So a lot of the Carlsberg standards are in place. But according to me, there's a lot of things that they don't measure that we at SAB measured religiously. And I just realized that we were so lucky and so privileged to have grown up in SAB in the 80s and 90s and 2000 with all the knowledge of the other people that was around. Because SAB was like a university. People got doctor's degrees and some of them even became professors at universities. So it was more than just a brewery. SAB was a academic institution, and a lot of universities actually knocked on our doors. Professor Barry Axel was connected to Rand Afrikaans University, and I think Betty Ledolo now, she's also Professor Betty Ledolo. She's now at the University of the Orange Free State. People like Frida Derman, Dr. Frida Derman, Dr. Wimlan Munsami, they all got their PhDs at the brewery, working and doing research there. So it was, I only realized that once I started working here, so how lucky we were. And then when we moved into Africa, all that knowledge that spilled over into Africa, I think we taught the guys in Africa a lot of things, and we a lot of that rubbed off. One of the countries that I think was run exceptionally well is a brewery in Uganda. Gavin van Wyk was there, and the leadership that he put in that place turned that brewery around. I don't know what it was like before, but that was one of the star breweries in Africa. And then there's a couple of others, Mwanza as well. We also fell under Gavin at one stage. So in Africa, we had wonderful times. The worst place for me in Africa that I went to was South Sudan, by far. South Sudan was really a mission. It was, and we were there. I think it was literally like days before the war started. We flew in there, and I think one of the guys said that the whole country has got something like 2 or 3 kilometers of tar road. Yeah. The rest is just potholes and not even roads. But the guys that worked there were superb guys. Keith Hayes was the technical director at the stage there. He was a guy from the UK. Fred Strydom also worked there, and Louis Peters, which I also met up with them. And the people, the South Sudanese were wonderful people. They were so receptive of new technologies and help, and they learned so much from us, which was actually quite nice to see. The other country, Ghana, Kevin Osborne, he was the guy there. Also, Vincent Oliver was there as well. The guys did exceptionally well in those countries, teaching the SAB way, the manufacturing way to everybody, lean manufacturing. It was quite a journey, taking all of those learnings into Africa.
Yeah, fantastic. I did an interview with Louis Peters a couple of years ago, and I mean, he had a fascinating journey. Besides what he did at SAB, he was the commercial director at South Sudan, at Juba, but he's got some lovely adventures that he went on.
Yeah, no, he's quite an adventurer.
Yeah, and so besides the countries that you mentioned, you gave me a list of how many countries have you visited?
I haven't counted. It's more than 30 that I've been to in total, including the ones in Europe. I spent about 2 years in India as well, as a brewing consultant, the head of brewing development. That was also fun. We went with the whole family, the whole wife and kids all went. The kids went to school there. Our oldest daughter finished matric there in Bangalore. But that was an experience and a half.
Was it international school or?
It was a Canadian international school, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and what else do you want to talk about?
New product development.
Okay.
Mozambique.
Yeah.
Cassava. That was also one of the projects. Jerry van den Houten, I don't know if you might know him. He was a technical director at one stage of SAB. He's the guy that brought me back from India to South Africa when Africa and Asia split up, and I had to work on making cassava beer, or beer from cassava. It took us about 2 years in total to get this thing right. Cassava, it's like a tuber that grows in the ground, almost like a sweet potato. You harvest the damn thing, and then within 2 days it goes rotten. You got to use it within 2 days if you use the root. So we used the root. So the supply chain was quite short. From the field, it was processed in the field. It was cleaned, rasped, and then mashed fine. put into bags, then shipped to the brewery, and the next day we had to mash it in. And it was a messy business, really, really messy business. Our first brew with cassava I did was in Nigeria, a little brewery called Pabot in the rivers area in Nigeria. And it was made, that'd be made from dry cassava flour, not the wet cake. The wet cake was also one of Jerry's ideas through another company that we linked up with. Eventually, we made it work, and Impala was the beer we made. Guy with the name of Malcolm de Toy, he finished it off. I started the whole thing, and he finished it off. The development of the Impala cassava beer in Mozambique, and I believe that they are now using cassava starch. They've seen the light and realized that they can't use the wet cake. It's just too complicated. Because the cake literally goes rotten. It gets sour, and so you've got to throw it away. Then it's a big loss. So the flour, the cassava starch is a much better idea.
Mm. And is it, you
Cleaner
said that's
process.
in Nigeria and in Mozambique?
We did the trials in Nigeria. I don't think we ever launched the beer in Nigeria. The beer was launched in Mozambique first, and then in Ghana, and I think also in Uganda.
Okay.
It was launched.
Mm. Okay. And then you also worked in, did you work in Tanzania, or did you just do your...
No. Well, I didn't move there. It was just based in Johannesburg, and traveled to Tanzania, stayed there for a week or two, and then come back and then hop on to the next country, etc., etc. So Tanzania, it was basically just consulting, helping out here and there. Michiel Bosch was there at the time. So we just went up there and also talked about new products and went to the markets and just have a look, general consultancy about beer quality, etc.
Okay, because you also did some non-beer alcoholic stuff.
Yeah, yes. I can't remember exactly when it started. I think it was in Tanzania that this whole thing started, because when we bought the brewery in Tanzania, we just happened to get a distilling business with it as well. That was, I think it was 50%, or there was some percentage owned by Distel as well. So that was one area where SAB and Distel worked together. And then we looked at a spirits business in Mozambique to go and take it over. And we did a lot of development there as well. A company called Best that used to be in the Retreat in Cape Town. We linked up with them. And they shared some recipes with us, and they went to show us some plants in Angola and in Nigeria. The spirit business was actually a lot easier than the beer, because it's quick money. It's not a 3-week or 4-week process. You get the alcohol in, you mix it, you pack it, you sell it. It's a much cleaner business than beer, in a sense from a production point of view. But in terms of complexity in the market and competition, it's a lot more complicated, a lot more risky, if you want to call it like that.
Okay.
The guys, especially in Africa, the guys traveled in the trucks with huge amounts of cash, because there's not a lot of swipe and pay facilities in Africa. It's all cash.
And I'm just back to Sri Lanka. How many breweries are there, or are you the only one?
There's 3 licenses: Heineken, us, and another brewery which also belongs to us, and we shut it down. It was too old, but we still have the license. Recently, they awarded 2 more licenses. Brewing licenses, so it's probably take another 18 months or so, well, depending on what's happening in the country now, how long that's going to take, for 2 more breweries to open, 2 local breweries. It's one of the spirit or the distilling groups, they applied for a brewing license and they got it, and then another group which I don't know who they are at this stage, I can't remember now. But basically it's us with about between 80 and 90% of the market, and Heineken between 10 and 15%, I would guess, of the market.
Similar to South Africa.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you go, is the Heineken, what sort of packaging do you use? Is it similar to here?
Yeah, it's similar to you. We got a 625 milliliter bottle. That's just the bulk size. Also 30 liter and 10 liter kegs. That's mainly for the resorts and the restaurants. And then the biggest seller is a 500 ml can. That's the one that runs the most. And then we also have a 300 or 330 ml can as well. And I would say about twice a month we run 300 or 325 ml bottles as well. But that's small volumes. And mainly on mild beer. We also make Guinness, by the way. Guinness FES, that we make as well. At 8% alcohol.
I was going to ask. It has to be at that level. Okay. I'm jumping a little bit now, but do you want to talk about the craft story?
Yeah. Between SAB and this job, I got contacted by a guy in Cape Town that wanted to start up. Okay, he wanted to start up a brewery, and he was looking for a brewer, so he contacted me, and I said, yeah, why not? And it was at the time when SAB was taken over by AB InBev, and I thought, well, it's a good opportunity and a good time to leave. So we opened this brewery in Cape Town. It's called Noon Gun Brewery. I tell you what, as far as craft breweries are concerned, this brewery it's really, really good. It's immaculate. There's no hose. It's all hard piped. 20 hectoliter brew house, 6, 7, 8 tanks, packaging line that can do bottles, and they've installed a canning line now recently as well, and kegs. Making phenomenal beers that won a couple of awards internationally. Really, really good beers, and I'm quite proud because my son started working there while I was there, and he's still there. So they're doing quite well. I spent the last 5 years there.
Okay. And
I think because of my time there, I got this job because they were looking for somebody with craft experience.
Okay. So
for the 20 hectare plant.
Okay, for that smaller plant. And that Noon Gun Brewery, I mean, we didn't see much of that beer in KZN. Where do they sell that beer?
Only Cape Town and Gauteng at this stage. Mainly Cape Town. Gauteng not so much.
Okay.
Look, we were going quite well, and then COVID hit us. And COVID hit us quite hard. We really struggled through COVID. To such an extent that I, at one stage, I thought we're not going to make it, but we pulled through at the end of the day. But like most of the craft breweries, we've got the issues. There's some issues there, but it seems like they are now getting out of it slowly. They got a contract to supply Checkers recently, so they're supplying Checkers countrywide.
I'll go and have a look at my local Checkers if they have stock. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you do for leisure?
Well, sometimes when we have petrol, we drive down to the coast, the southern part of Sri Lanka, a place called Unawatuna, most beautiful beaches, and there's lots of sea turtles and all over. It's actually an immaculate environment. The only problem with this ocean down here is, and I never knew it until I got here, is crocodiles. There's some saltwater crocodiles here, and people do get caught from time to time. Yeah, at least in the last 6 months, I've heard of 2 people got caught in the ocean by crocodiles.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. But it's normally close to estuaries and river mounts and so on that they are. They're not all over.
Okay. And do you play cricket?
No. On my standards, in cricket or in Sri Lanka, everybody, and I mean everybody, from the kids to the oldest person here, they are superb. They know cricket backwards. You know, you ask them about a cricket stadium. There's one guy I work with, so they say, oh, Wanderers, it's got this length of outfield, and it's got this building on that side and this building on that side, and Hansi Cronje scored this there, and so on. But yeah, talking about cricket, Muralidharan, he's our can supplier at the brewery. One of the they call him the greatest cricketer here in Sri Lanka. And I think from Test cricket point of view, he's still got the best bowling figures, if I'm not mistaken.
I know it's been lovely chatting to you. While you were working at the craft brewery, I was always talking to you and hoping to catch up. And so I'm glad we caught up, and hopefully we can find you some export orders, if not via your network. Maybe somebody picks it up on our side. Yeah. It sounds like a wonderful adventure for you, and I wish you and your family all the best. I hope that we can get some good news from you soon, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, please do, and keep an eye on Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So
we'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our stories here online. In the show notes, you will also find a link where you can subscribe to become part of our community and be notified when we upload our latest content.